Welcome, everybody, to a new episode of New Gameplay Today. I'm Matt Miller. I am joined by Joe Juba.
Hi.
And Leo Vader.
Hey, guys.
And we are taking a look at Void Bastards. This is developed by Blue Manchu, published by Humble Bundle, and it's a pretty neat little game. It kind of is inspired by
Inglourious Bastards.
By Inglourious Bastards. No, it's by like the Shock games, like BioShock and System Shock 2. But
in more of a roguelike setting.
Yeah, exactly. There's kind of a more procedural element that adds an element of kind of like a long-term engagement, let's say.
Sure.
So who are the bastards?
We are the bastards. We are prisoners aboard a ship called the Void Ark. And the Void Ark has a bunch of dehydrated prisoners. We have committed some minor crime in the past. Each one of our prisoners has. And as a result, we got dehydrated into small potato chip bag-sized containers.
Yes.
And put on board this prison ship.
So it's a documentary.
Yes, this is a true story. And you get rehydrated because all of the crew has gone mad and evacuated the ship or has been killed. And so the ship needs somebody to get it out of the nebula. And so they start rehydrating prisoners. And the ship doesn't really care about you, of course.
That's why there are unlimited of you?
Yes, and so you constantly get new people.
So it's not like you're one person who's cloned. It's just a ship full of infinite criminals.
And each of the prisoners has their own sort of unique thing about them. Some of them are cannibals, for instance, and so they get more. You get food sometimes when you kill enemies. Others of them are smokers, and so every once in a while they'll cough when they're walking around. Which is especially inconvenient.
Because they'll make noise in stealth situations?
While
That's
you're
hilarious.
It reminds me a little bit then of like that element of sort of like roguelike. Different
exactly.
genre, but like every generation of your character like has some little thing that makes it a little different.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I love that stuff.
So you go on board these different ships in order to solve bureaucratic hurdles that have been put in front of you. The ship won't warp itself out of the nebula, even though it's perfectly capable of doing it, until you like insert a laminated ID chip into a particular machine, and then you go to once you get the laminated ID chip, you go, and then the machine for the laminated ID chip doesn't work, and so you've got to go back out into the nebula and get stuff. It's all pretty absurd, purposefully.
Sort of like it sounds a little like Douglas Adams, like Hitchhiker's Guide kind of silliness, right?
That's where I kind of came from, but it's a pretty dark version of that, right? Like where nothing about life matters, and
Sure.
And the value of human life is very low,
Right.
the way that it's being evaluated, and when you die, like it's not like anybody cares. The ship just rehydrates somebody else.
Okay.
And then you go out searching into the nebula again. Each one of the ships that you go onto has stuff that you can get. So, you can see here I got some fuel and some food and some random other stuff that's going to go into my supplies. So that's going to help me like stay out into the nebula a little bit longer. But I also get some random materials that got recycled, and that's going to let me make parts.
Wow.
Parts over here, like let's say the detonator. I could build because I've gotten some more parts now, and those in turn I use on the workbench where, like for instance, to get the next upgrade for the toaster, which I'm hovering over here, I need skin tape, which I could make. That's a part I can make. It shows me there.
Yeah.
And body fluid, which I don't have right now, and I don't have any way to make it.
Think of a few ways.
Yeah, drink a bunch of water.
Yeah, exactly. And so you're constantly, when you start, you don't have any of this stuff. This is kind of well into the game.
This is the stuff that persists between runs?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff persists. Your parts persist. Your the stuff you've created on your workbench persists. But your actual materials, I think, don't. Not to mention your depth into the nebula where you're searching for things. So, for instance, this is like a near end game save. Like after you beat the game, it's kind of going back to before you beat the game if you hit continue. And this is right before I get like a thing that I need at the end, right? The CNT stamp that would let me go do something. But I can endlessly explore, right? Like, I don't have to build the thing that will move the story forward. I can just keep looking around. Each one of these little locations, these ships, is procedurally generated and has different stuff on board it. So you can see up in the upper right, here I would find a torpedo rack that destroys pirates. I'd find particular ammo types like bangers and cluster flaks. And I'd also, if I looked really closely, I'd find a detonator there, which is a part that I need to build the deconstructor.
But it doesn't show you where it is on the ship?
No. So when I go here, this is where the strategy element comes in. You're going to kind of pick up what stuff you want to bring with.
It shows you which enemies are likely on the ship.
It does. So I know that there's some screws, which are not entirely unlike Big Daddies, right? They're big honking dudes that are troubling to get through. And then there's some other enemies as well. And you're then looking at this map and you're thinking about, okay, well, now what can I do, right? There's a helm. The helm's going to be a place I can figure out where to explore. It'll show me where all the supplies are. But maybe when I get on board, the generator won't be turned on. So I can't use the helm until I go to the generator. Like this. So you can see all the power's off. And so in order to get where I want to go, I'm actually going to go over here and turn the generator on first.
So my big problem with procedurally generated roguelikes is just that repetition, that sense of things just being random and not crafted.
Yes.
How does this game offset that at all? Is that an issue here?
I think that it handles its procedural generation better than many games do. That has become my line in the sand for a lot of roguelikes that use, I'm not going to fight him, that use that kind of procedural generator kind of quality, is how much have they done some craft work in addition to that procedural generation so that it doesn't feel procedurally generated.
Right.
And here I think they've done a pretty good job of that. They make interesting ship designs that demand that you do interesting stuff.
Is there ever a time when you get onto a ship and you're like, oh, this ship has a detonator thing that I need, and then you take 2 steps in and it's like, oh, there are just 5 screws here. I can't even get that thing goodbye.
Yes, but there's often a way to solve for that, right? You can be more stealthy. You can do something else. So you can see, because I went to the helm here, I now know where everything is, including the detonator, the big star that's down in the nuclear spot in the bottom right. So I know that that's where I need to go if I want to get that key item for this location.
Sure.
Right?
Real quick, can you tell us about this prisoner? What's his deal?
I didn't even look. You get to a point, I think, where you're going through these guys with such rapidity that you almost don't care. And that's the point, right? It instills in you this sense of eventually the same kind of, I don't care about these guys, as the ship has applied to you. They're not real people to you. And so you're just kind of using them as tools to move forward. So that was kind of you wouldn't normally do that. You'd probably try to clear out the ship a little better than that. But I just want to kind of hop back here and show you. So here's Frank Powell. His offense was developing a non-Xanax prescribed mutation. And so for that, he got dehydrated. And so he's got some stuff going on with him. He's thin-skinned, so radiation's real bad for him. But on the bright side, he's got 10% chance of pirates' vessels not pursuing when I fly my ship away.
So on that tactical map screen, there are ships that you can encounter that.
There are, and they're big trouble as a general rule. So I think to kind of take a step back from just the nuts and bolts here, there's a lot of stuff I like about this game. It does manage to tap in an interesting way what is fun about those kind of BioShock games. I mean, we're really speeding through this right now, but I think if you were actually playing it, you'd stop on each one of these map screens and you'd really look and be like, okay, well, the torpedo tubes are up there, and I don't have any torpedoes right now, so I really want to get some torpedoes while I'm here. I'm low on fuel, so I should go back to the FTL area because there's usually fuel there. I'm almost out of food, so I better go to the helm and see if I can find spots where there's supplies, and hopefully I can find some food. Those are the sorts of things you're thinking about. And a lot of times, instead of like speeding around and just shooting everything, you're crouching like this, and you're kind of carefully exploring the area. When you see enemies, instead of instantly engaging them, you're actually kind of pausing and being like, okay, well, maybe I can go around that guy.
Yeah. When you do have to engage them, like, is the gunplay good? Are the weapons fun?
I think the weapons are fun. There's a good bit of variety here. I mean, the character I've got right now is a little low on some of the bullets, and so I've gone in with kind of my machine gun each time because I have ammo for that. So yeah, like right now I'm having to make the decision. I need to go back and go to the generator, or else all these things are not going to be usable for me, right? I can't open doors or anything.
Hey, we haven't talked much about the art style. That looks pretty good.
I love it.
Yeah. It's got kind of a it's got this very comic book kind of vibe to it, which is pretty fun.
I mean, the game's title screen, we didn't show it here, but it's basically just like a big comic book cover, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It is indeed.
It's cool. So, speaking of system shockiness,
Yes.
can you give some examples of clever solutions to encounters? Is there hacking or anything like that?
So it's oftentimes things that you're finding in the spaces and ways that you're using the tools that you have, right? So you know that, well, like this Screw is a guy, like I said, kind of a Big Daddy-esque guy. So I just want to kind of avoid him if I can. But I could also, like, change out my weapons, and I could slowly damage him. Now, he's way too powerful that's going to do much good. But if it was a weaker enemy, the spiker does not alert them to my presence, right? So he's just taking damage continually right now. So that could be a way for me in the long term to like solve a problem. But I'm also balancing against my O2 in the upper right? So that's an issue.
That's your time limit for being on this ship?
Exactly. But maybe I find maybe I managed to find a station, like an oxygen station, that refills it, right? Maybe I find a spot that after I get attacked or whatever, I can go heal at. There's all sorts of weird stations on board the ship. There's, you can see right there's an O2 station. So if I was on here longer, I could do something about that. So those are the ways that you're kind of tweaking the system. But in general, you're kind of just getting into this flow of repeatedly going on board the ship as quickly as possible, trying to find your way around it, get the stuff that you need, get back onto your ship, and then, not die in the process, right? Yeah. So, like, if I'm doing all this kind of stuff, I'm going to die pretty fast. But I've really upgraded a lot, right? So now I have a torpedo. That's nice. There's
nice.
All that for one torpedo?
Yeah, but the torpedoes are really valuable, right? Because if a pirate ship comes nearby, it can just instantly destroy them. Right now, I'm sick from that nasty garbage I walked past, right? So that's like a timed effect that I'm going to have to deal with.
It seems like not fighting is a viable option here.
Yeah, well, because I've put in the time to get like a pretty decent setup, right?
Lots of health.
Initially, you're not in that kind of a position. And just a couple of those shots would have killed me. But I walked away with some torpedoes, which is going to help me out. But look, you can see on the left side, I don't have a lot of food left. So this guy's going to die pretty soon unless the next place I go has food that I can pick up.
But, like, who even cares?
The only reason that you'd care, and let's look at this real quick before we finish up, is that you can see on the map that it's pointing towards things that I need that are always a distance away, right? And so in order to progress the game, you can have your mission critical stuff. So right here is where it's telling me I can get the CNT stamp.
Right.
That's important for me to actually like move the story forward. But you also eventually get a thing that's like a parts locator. So when you're pursuing your own interests, you can find the thing you need for, let's say, your next armor suit. And that's the little green arrow that we see down below.
Oh, okay.
Right? So maybe I want to go over there, and I don't care about the CNT stamp. You're also doing things like, okay, well, if I go along this path, then I can stop here and get this fuel, right?
Yeah.
That's something I need. Or maybe I go here and I know that, well, I can call in a supply van, which would be real handy right now because I'm so low on food. As it is, what's going to happen is that I'm going to just start losing health because I'm starving to death.
Right.
And then to show you, let's see if we can go really quick before we finish up.
No rush, man.
Show what happens. Let's just see what happens if I go on board here and take some hits.
Sure. So, I saw you have about 16 hours played on this game. Is that to see the end? Did you play much after that?
I did play more past this, but I don't know how if that reflects. I mean, I think I played more than 16 hours, and so I don't know if
Maybe
that's
some offline.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
not sure about that. I would say that the game was closer to like a 20-hour experience for me.
Okay.
That's kind of where I came in. So like if I just stand here and let these guys sort of eat me.
Ugh, it's going to take forever.
Yeah, well, I've got
They
good
are not very hungry.
good health.
Are there difficulty levels?
There are. That's actually a great question because a lot of these roguelite style games don't have that, and I sometimes find them to be maybe a little bit punishing for an average player, right? I think there's a lot of people who enjoy it. Oh, Joe's taking the controller from me.
I want to see if I can speed this up.
Okay.
But a good way of balancing that is like Rogue Legacy, where you can just over-level for things to the point that they become trivial, you know?
Yeah, I think you can do some of that. But here, I think that, especially in the early game, it could be frustrating for some people.
Sure.
If they have, if they're not used to this style of game. And I like the fact that you can tune it. I tried it on multiple difficulties. I played it on normal for a while. I played it on easy for a while. I played it on the harder settings. And it does reflect in the way that your play experience is. And I think that makes the game welcoming to a broad variety of people. Oh, I forgot I have one of these, so now it's going to make me do it again. Suffice to say, you can die, but I'm really far in the game, so I have these things that are letting me stay alive for longer by pulling me back to full health.
Could you go to the map and just progress time until you run out of food and start
Yeah,
it back?
maybe that's the way to do it. Here, let's see where my ship is. It's back that way. I think
Another tough challenge, how to die.
how to die when you're really leveled up.
Yeah, procedural.
You're making this game look pretty easy, man.
I know.
Yeah, we're very impressed. Do you know if you can reset the solar system? That's something that a heat signature does. When you beat it, you can choose to just get a new seed with new planets, or in this case,
You know, I didn't experiment with that. I know that you can kind of move in different directions along the nebula and find places that are gonna be more or less dangerous. So like here's a pirate. They're now locked on, but we're gonna just kind of keep jetting through here.
Yeah. Can you just rest
Yep.
until you die?
Let's try that.
Until you starve?
Oh, you don't look happy about this.
Void whale.
You die.
There you go. So that's what we were looking for.
All right. That's the consequence. All right.
So when this happens, you die, the ship goes back to the main arc, and somebody else gets rehydrated. All this is done through this little comic book style thing. This guy was a guy who counted cards in a Lux facility.
Homer Wilson is not the name of an intergalactic hero.
He will not last long.
Homer Wilson always gets good prizes from Spin and Win. That's his like little bonus thing. And because I've leveled up, he gets a bunch of starter stuff that I can head out into the nebula with.
That's cool. Homer Wilson, definitely the type of guy you will be picking up an audio log from.
Yeah, right.
Murdered.
Dear Ethel, our daughter is gone.
And then I'm back to the Ark and I can start exploring again. So that, in brief, is Void Bastards. I think it's a pretty fun game. It does manage to do what I think the the BioShock games, the System Shock 2 kind of vibe does in its actual gameplay, but there's this extra kind of strategy layer. The roguelite elements, I think, encourage repeated plays and coming back through and trying stuff that you might not have tried before. There's all these different weapons that you might try out. And each of them have, we've got the fast whacker and the banger and the germ spiker and the unstable kitty.
Are those all just fancy names for guns that are very familiar?
A lot of them are, right? Like, these are very familiar guns. Like, a stapler is pretty much like a shotgun.
Okay.
Right? The riveter is pretty much a machine gun. But then there's other ones like the cluster flak, which are just really weird. Which are just going to literally, you're going to shoot a bunch of bombs into a room and then close the door because they're going to bounce everywhere.
That's my kind of
kill
gun.
you.
I like that.
So, I think it's a pretty satisfying little loop, and one that I hope some people give a shot to. It is a game that after some time begins to feel a little bit rote, which is something I mentioned in the review. There is the potential for some tedium to set in, but I think pretty quickly after that happens, the game starts to recognize it about itself and lets you win, right?
Sure.
Speaking about that review, what'd you give it?
I gave this an 8.
All right.
Yeah.
And you can read that review on our site, yes?
You sure can.
And what's our website?
I believe our website is GameInformer.com.
Great. That's easy to remember.
It sure is. So thanks, everybody, for watching.
Yeah, this comes out May 29th, right?
That's right. It's available on Xbox One and PC.
Excellent. And Mac.
And
Oddly
Mac.
enough.
That's right. Something that's easy to forget about, but we shouldn't.
That's right. It's just as much a game console as any of these.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
All right. Thanks for watching.
Gaming can be hard. Watching people play games shouldn't be. New Gameplay Today is your path to getting fun, informational previews of upcoming games and the releases of the day. It's New Gameplay Today, a marginally new way to spend your time.